Well, hi everyone. Hello and welcome to the session. And apologies for the delay. I'm Triptisana. I'm your host from Tech Jobs Fair. And today we have a very special guest, Miss Liz Hardwick, with me here. And Liz is a digital productivity specialist, professional speaker, and trainer. She's a tech founder and has been sharing her expertise for over 20 years through engaging talks, training, and virtual seminars, and also via her productivity club, which is online. Described as a forever smiling, down to earth, and approachable expert, she is known for advocating a strong work life balance using digital to solve human problems. So let's welcome her. Welcome to our session, Liz. How are you doing
Brilliant.
today?
Thanks for having me, Tripty. Yeah, it's great. Thank you. Yeah, all good so far.
All right. So, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. Of course, the today's topic is digital productivity. So, guys, we're going to talk about digital productivity today. But before we start, conversating about the topic, can you please tell us a little more about yourself and your journey in tech?
It's quite a varied journey in tech. I've done a lot of different roles in a lot of different statuses as well. So I started working in the broadcast industry with small contracts running radio stations, so local, small areas over towns and cities. I did that for probably about 5 years, and then I became an employee of an organisation that ended up creating the second largest community radio station in the UK. So we did a lot of national projects, and then I worked for some of the big names in broadcast tech. So in the UK, BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, and ITV, which was the commercial equivalent. And then I probably did that, and I realised that people needed more training in how to use media, how to use technology, how to use digital. So I did that for nearly 10 years. I've been now, I've got, as you mentioned, I've got a few different tech companies. One's software as a service, where we help people with marketing and lead generation. And then the training is still very much an element to what we do. So we found that there's lots of people in tech that might be good in one area, but then they could also do with confidence in promoting themselves or using digital in different ways. And then, as you mentioned, the Productivity Club is my latest creation at the moment. So that helps using remote and digital tools to help people with the productivity.
All right. Thanks so much. So, why digital productivity? And why is it becoming, a hot topic nowadays for businesses, business leaders, and of course for their teams? Can you give us a little bit elaborated, description on that?
Yeah, and I think we're with digital, with technology, we're in forever moving times. The latest piece of tech is coming out. We want to utilize the latest technologies, the latest resources. So I think it's become a hot topic post COVID. I don't like to talk about the COVID world, but COVID has been an opportunity for lots of people to utilize tech in different ways. For business leaders, we're looking at hybrid and remote working teams these days. People want that added flexibility as part of a job that they maybe didn't previously. So I think there's some challenges around managing teams, but then also having your own productivity with these digital resources. So yes, it's great that we're forever modern and moving and creating new technologies, but we also need to be careful we don't see that as a big distraction as well. So we can end up down a rabbit hole of trying the latest tech all the time, always having the latest phone or the latest laptop. And sometimes that can actually distract us from what our tasks are as part of our job roles as well. So it can kind of be a balance to make sure that we are using digital for human benefit, why we're creating and using the tech we are, but just being careful that we're not running after something just because it's shiny.
Nice. So, how does your training offerings and talk on digital productivity help with this, like, to overcome this?
Yeah, so I think that as much as the digital and the tech world are forever changing, the training side of what we do is always changing. So we're always learning ourselves, testing out the new tech, trying new tools, using digital resources so that we can better understand them ourselves to be able to train our customers, our clients, our teams. So we can help with a variety of different topics. So it could be digital marketing. It could be how to get people to use Zoom and MS Team more productively. On the digital productivity theme, we've got one-to-one coaching, we've got downloads, we've got lots of free stuff as well, because I'm very much about people being helped on their journey, because I think we find that people, when they're struggling with the productivity, telling them here's 10 more things you can do is counterproductive, because they might just want that one little thing to support them on that journey. So we have training with one-to-one individuals, we have training with teams, we have training with corporate organizations where we would train a whole team of staff, hundreds of people, might be in person, might be online. And then also we've seen most recently, because there is a lot of online training available and lots of people are working hybrid these days. As a speaker, I'm also seeing more emphasis on staff conferences. So if they're looking for a learning piece or a speaker to be part of their day where they're getting all of their team together, that can be a good opportunity to have a bit of a learning, a bit of training, or a bit of a speaker to get them thinking and discussing new ideas and new ways of doing things.
So, of course, you mentioned about digital productivity being very important. Can you tell us, like, how did it start to become so important in our daily life, and why is it, very important and essential for us to have this idea of digital productivity?
I think we've always had productivity,
Uh-huh.
because very much that phrase is a modern phrase versus time management. So in the 80s and 90s, we were talking about time management as how do we best use our time? And productivity has almost taken over the time management phrase, because people realize it's more about energy, more about doing the right things at the right times. So digital productivity then is the battle of how do we not get distracted by the tech while we're trying to use it. So a great example of this is you can have maybe a team that have Zoom, MS Teams, Slack channels. They might be on WhatsApp. They might have emails. They've got loads of these resources. And because they can potentially get overwhelmed and not have an understanding of what to use in what circumstance, everyone's default to CCing everyone in on an email. And that's not helpful. That's not relevant. So this is what we're battling with. That's just one example of why we need to reflect on our own personal productivity. But within teams, it becomes a conversation of how can we best use all our time so that we're not sending one email to 200 people because there's cake in the office, and maybe half of those 200 people are working remotely that day and aren't relevant to that conversation. So we need to reflect on how we're using digital in a productivity sense, but then also we can use some of the tools to help us with the time management piece, with the energy management piece as well. So there's a couple of angles on that people can get some benefit from.
That's nice. That's interesting. So now, because we are all focused about job hunters and freshers or looking for jobs. So, what are the tips that you would love to give to our listeners for being more productive with their job hunts or recruitment activities?
Yeah, brilliant. So I think it can work for job seekers or recruiters, but I would always say whatever set of jobs you're looking for, going for or advertising, I would make it into almost like a project. So actually, there's a productivity process in project management terms called Kanban, which is about having 3 columns. So if you can imagine this in a digital platform, we might use something like Asana, which is a free digital management tool. So maybe we've got a couple of columns, a couple of different stages of things that need doing, things that are in progress, and things that have been done. So if we're a job seeker, we might want to put the information of every job we're applying for, when the deadline is, when we need to do it, when we need to actually write the information, or I know there's a lot of job applications that involve maybe video now as well. When are we going to do all of those different steps in that process? And once you've started to apply or recruit for a series of jobs, it's hard to hold that in your head. It's hard to remember all those moving parts. So using a digital project management tool can almost, they call it second brain. It's take it out of your brain and put it into a digital system, so that you don't forget anything. But equally, this could be a system where you set reminders that come up on your phone or your laptop, so that when it's 3 days before a deadline is due, you can get a reminder about it. So you know that that's high up your priority list then. So I would say whichever job role you're in, so either job seeker or recruiter, use it as a way of planning a project with multiple jobs within that, multiple stages. And for job seekers, once you've got through to the interview stage, there can be an element of waiting. You might want to decide if you're going to chase them up or not. So how long do you wait until you send them an email and go, what's happening? Did I get the job or not? You can then decide, how long do you leave that? But once you've applied for a few things, or once you've set the recruitment process going on several jobs, I would understand that to be quite hard to keep on top of. So using a digital project system and a tool to go with that, I think can be really easy. And then you're not having to stress about remembering all those elements yourself as a human. You can use your second brain to do that.
Yeah. So are there any, productivity routines that we can follow? And if yes, what would be the examples of it?
Oh, absolutely. Love that. So I've got a couple of things I'd recommend. Having a really good morning routine. So that might be a personal routine that you have before you get to your desk or get on your laptop. So be a recruiter or a job seeker, I think that the morning routine, getting yourself motivated, because it can be quite stressful. It can be, quite a long drawn out process depending on what sort of jobs you're working with. So getting yourself set up in the morning, productive, but also in the right mindset and the right frame of mind. And then my second tip for that would be a process called Pomodoro. If anyone's ever joined my productivity club or any of my events or talks before, this is by far the best process that I absolutely love. This enables me to do 5 working days in 4 generally. And it's called the Pomodoro process. And it's very simple. You set a timer for 25 minutes of time. The idea is that you get your head down, you focus on that one task. So that could be the one job application or the one section of the job application form that you want to write or answer. And then 5-minute break. So the timer will go off at 25 minutes. Then you've got a 5-minute break, step away from the computer or what you're doing, get a bit of fresh air. It enables you to refocus, to then come back and then do another 25 minutes. Because whether you're a recruiter creating the process or you're the job seeker filling in forms and going through the different stages of an application, it will always take more than 25 minutes. So we're wanting to chunk it up so that you don't get bogged down and again, it's sort of down the rabbit hole of we can spend 4 hours staring at our computer. And the longer we stare at our computer without actually going and getting a drink or having a break, we're actually reducing our productivity. So those small 5-minute breaks enable us to reset ourselves and then come back with fresh eyes, fresh focus, so that we can actually get more stuff done in less time just by adding in the breaks, which feels counterproductive, but highly recommend that because it absolutely works. And I use it all the time, and I find it really helpful to say, okay, this section, so say you're doing the video element of a job application form, you know it's maybe going to take you an hour to maybe write it first, then record it. So you might want to chunk that up into 2 25-minute blocks and then a 5-minute break. And then that makes an hour slot of your time. So then you can better design your week. If you are a job seeker, that can be, it can be hard to be out of a routine if you're currently not in a job and you want to apply for a job. So there's some elements of that along the way as well, where schedule can be helpful to plan your days out and your weeks out as well. But good morning routine is a great place to start that off.
That's really interesting because, even I've heard this before, like people sit on their computers and work for 4 hours straight, but then at the end of the day, if they check, they've only worked 1 hour actually, which is productive, and the rest of the 3 hours are like just there. And then they just get a migraine later. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's so easy
Like,
to do because there's so much to distract us. The minute I get on YouTube, that's it. Like an hour, 2 hours has gone. I've got distracted. I've watched things that I don't even remember what I've watched. So that totally makes sense. And I don't think we're alone in that.
yeah, it's like, how a doctor prescribes to have small meals rather than having large meals.
Absolutely. So we're snacking up our, tasks and things.
Yeah.
And the people who say, oh, I'm too busy to have a break,
Hmm.
generally they're the ones that need that 5-minute break the most.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds, that sounds productive.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you just for 25 minutes and then the 5 minutes. But I just want to understand here, for people who wants to start this routine. So for them, would it be like now you're saying, set a timer for 25 minutes? Won't they feel pressurized when you're starting with the routine that, oh, I only have 25 minutes, I have to finish in 25 minutes? So that, that nervousness and maybe that pressure, how can we tackle that, in the beginning?
That's a great point, because I think it's almost like gamifying the work that we're doing. So we are working to a timer. You're absolutely right. I think with practice, you start to understand how long activities are going to take you. There's only 16% of the population that can accurately guesstimate how long a task will take. The rest of us underestimate it. So if we think, oh, that'll only take me an hour, it'll end up taking you 2 hours. So I would say give yourself lots of time. And there's nothing to say, okay, it might actually take you 10 Pomodoros of 25-minute chunks of time to actually finish the section that you're on, for example. So I think it's not worrying about finishing that particular task
Mhm.
by the time, knowing that you could do multiple chunks of work on it. Or another way of looking at it, in terms of where we were talking about it becoming a project in itself, actually breaking down each section, if you will, into what you think might be 25-minute blocks of time. So especially if you're on the job seeking side of it, you might want to do a bit of research first. You might
Yeah.
want to research the company. You might want to then formulate your answer to the question. You might have like draft 1, draft 2, final version. So you might have those different sections and say, right, I'm just going to have a bit of a research for 25 minutes and make some notes. And so that way, if you feel like filling in, the application form, for example, feels quite overwhelming, you're absolutely not going to do that in 25 minutes. But say question 1, you might say that's doable within 25 minutes. So almost understanding what you're saying right at the very start of your time, when you set your timer, going, this is what I'm going to try and achieve in the 25 minutes. Make sure it's small enough
Mhm.
that then it doesn't feel overwhelming if you don't complete it after the 25-minute time has gone off.
That's nice. So now that if anyone from our listeners are all ready to start with this productivity routine, what sort of resources like are there which is available that can help our audience start their productivity journey?
Yeah, brilliant. So www.productivityclub.co.uk. It is UK based, but it's for anyone around the world because I know you have a global reach. We've got lots of free resources to get you started. So there's a morning routines checklist of things that you could think about to create your morning routine with. So we've mentioned an element of that with this session. There's a priority matrix. So there's a process called the Eisenhower matrix that helps you decide what's priority, what can wait. So sometimes that can be helpful. So there's a free downloadable for that. And then we've also got things like monthly sprints where you do something every day for 4 weeks. So we run those for free, generally at the start of each month as part of the Productivity Club. And then we also do free online virtual co-working. So what we find is sometimes people need that sort of face-to-face accountability or virtual face-to-face. So we open a Zoom room, we run for 2 hours, and people use the Pomodoro method to have a practice, to get going on stuff, share support with each other as well. And then there's the added level of accountability there because you can say, in this 25 minutes, I'm going to try and post online one of our latest job adverts, for example, if you're a recruiter end. And then at the end of the 25 minutes, we say, how have you got on? Do I need to carry on doing it? Or do I need another chunk of time? Or, yeah, I found that was brilliant. I've done that. I'm moving on to something else. So there's a load of different things that you can find through productivityclub.co.uk.
That's nice. So does that also help, like, dividing the time into 25 minutes and 5 minutes break? That does that also help in, having better attention span and, having more like retaining, benefits of what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the giving yourself a time limit, I think, is really important. There's lots of research behind why 25 minutes is the optimal. You're
Hmm.
absolutely right. We generally only have 4 hours good work in us as humans every day, and that's our max, really. So if we've done a good solid hour of work in a day, we've done really well. So the 25 minutes enables us to be focused, but that 5 minute break is really important to the second step of it as well, because we're resting our eyes. If we've been staring at a computer, we can go away, we can make ourselves a coffee, we can go get some fresh air. And that piece is important as well because it resets our brains. Then when we come back to it might be the same job application, for example, we start with fresh ideas. So we've had enough time to have our brain rewire itself that actually we're coming back with almost like restarting again. You know where you're up to, you know what you're on, but you feel a bit more refreshed from having that break. And it only needs to be 5 minutes because once you get into a routine, 5 minutes is enough. Comfort break, and then next thing I'm going to do this. So you start to almost get excited by planning your time and knowing what the next chunk of time is going to be. So that can help reduce a lot of the stress, can increase the focus, but also increase the way you manage your energies as well. So if you're an early bird, if you're a really morning person, you might get a load of stuff done first thing in the morning, and then everyone comes into the office or people start asking you things. And so you're managing your time that way as well. It might be that you can only maybe do 1 or 2 Pomodoro chunks of time in a day, but then that would at least feel like you were being more productive than not doing at all. So I think it's, even if you're struggling with the 25 minutes to start off with, maybe just start with 10, because if 25 minutes of time feels overwhelming itself, too much time, then you can always break it down and make it your own. Just like any of these productivity processes, someone's created it because it works for them, but there's nothing to stop you from, learning what the process is and
Mhm.
making it to your own as well.
Yeah, this already sounds like a routine that we all need to follow starting now.
Oh, I love it. I love it. If nothing else, Pomodoro. There's an app called Pomo Done that goes with it if you want the digital app for it. They just renamed it to like Time Pie, and I'm not sure why. It's to do with pies instead of tomatoes now. But the Pomo Done app uh, still works to be able to find that. And that helps you if you want to be able to track what you've actually done as well. So going back to your point about, you might have done 4 hours worth of work, but you're not quite sure what you've done. You might have only done one thing. That can also help in tracking without you having to do it yourself. So there's a bit of automation involved in that.
Yeah, that's really nice. I just have one last question for you. Yeah.
Go for it.
So I guess, you have your own digital productivity system that you follow or you work with. So how does that help in general, and how would it help our audience?
Brilliant. Yeah. So everything we do in the Productivity Club all centers around a productivity wheel. So if you've ever done any coaching experiences, you might have heard of the Wheel of Life, which has different segments on it. And you rate yourself from 1 to 10 where you feel you are right now. So we have a digital productivity wheel that does a very similar thing. And it's got different elements of it. So we've talked about some of them today: routines and habits, task management, inbox management for those of you who emails and overflowing inboxes for continuous stress. And that's a great place to start as well, because there's no right or wrong answers to that. You're rating yourselves in the different elements of the productivity journey that you're going on, and we're focused on digital for what we do. That's a good place for us to start and say, this is where I am, no right or wrong answers, and what, say, 3 different segments of the productivity wheel you'd like to focus on next. So thinking, right, actually, I want to work on my time management, for example. Well, Pomodoro process would be a great answer to that question. If we wanted to focus on our inboxes, one of my processes called Zen for Inbox is a great one to be able to learn and focus on. So each different segment on that wheel has freebie downloads. It has resources, but also it has online 4-week self-paced learning courses, and also, could always be something that we worked on one-to-one as well. So there's different levels depending on where you are at on your digital productivity journey, but everything centers back into that productivity wheel.
That's nice. I guess all of your insights are really, really valuable, but we do have some time constraints, because of which, unfortunately, we have to bring this session to an end. But of course, we will have more sessions in the future, right, with Liz. And thank you so much, Liz, for joining us today and for your active participation. But before we end, do you want to add anything from your side?
Just please do come join productivityclub.co.uk. There's loads of free stuff on there. If you download something, we'll put you on our weekly Monday email list, which is always full of top tips. Love to connect with any of you that are interested as well. I'm sure you can find me online.
Great. I guess you can also, leave that website on the comment below so that people can just go and, reach out.
Brilliant. Love
Yeah.
to. I can do that now. There we go. It's in the chat now. Fabulous. There we go. Oh,
All right. So, guys, also there's a quick update. If you are looking forward to build your career in tech industry, we have multiple events upcoming, be it physical or virtual. So just log on to techjobsfair.com and check the details. And if you're a job seeker, get your free tickets now. Thank you so much for joining us today. And until next time, take care, everyone. Have a great day. Bye bye.
bye.